Okay, welcome to spring semester 2025. I just wanted to give you a overview of the course, a little bit of a roadmap, and just kind of walk you through some of the steps. And so in this class, we're going to be combining two activities, looking at data, learning how to use spreadsheets and graphs, and then also taking stories through zines and story maps and combining them together. And we're looking at kind of how pop culture thinks about crime and what's true about it. I'm Professor Jason Leggett. I'm your instructor for this course. This semester, I'm really interested in how you make sense of the gap between the formal legal processes and the way that we talk about legality in our everyday lives and in pop culture, especially in TV and movies, and how you think about that. We're going to look at different stats in activities to kind of measure these differences, to see what's true and what's not true, and to learn about especially how to tell kind of what's going on, quote unquote. Um, we're going to be analyzing this data, and this is pretty common in criminal justice research, especially as you go on, and hopefully for some of you who go on to John Jay, or if you want to have a career in criminal justice, this will be a very common approach. You'll be doing this in groups, and so this makes it a little bit easier, and so you can kind of talk with each other and see how to get this done. It kind of lowers the stakes, so it's not just you all by yourself. We're also going to have a former student who went on to John Jay to get his master's in criminal justice, and who's very familiar with doing statistical analysis. He's going to be helping us as well, and he's helped design this course. We're also going to be thinking about hypotheses, and so you're going to make an estimate of how you think things are going in your borough or in your neighborhood, and then we're going to use stats to see how well that measures up. And then at the end, we're really going to be playing with these things to try to link them up to stories in criminal justice and how can we tell a story. So the benefits that kind of come from this work is you're going to learn about crime stories and the law. So you're kind of learning about crime and the way we talk about crime, but then you're also learning about specific elements of the law as well as the formal legal processes. You're going to be learning new legal concepts that we use in academic environments like college or scholarship. And you're going to learn very specific things like the elements of a crime, the burden of proof, mens rea, and actus reus. Hopefully, these are things that you're familiar with from the intro class, but we'll go back into those and look at those roles as they play out in the courtroom work group. Um, Again, like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of research that uses statistical analysis and data. So you're going to learn how to pull data from different sets. You're going to find out where those data are and what's kind of common in criminal justice. We're also going to think a lot about pop culture and criminal justice. So I'm going to ask you to bring in stories and news as well as TV examples and movie examples or graphic novel examples or other kinds of pop culture things that specifically we want to kind of look at, well, how do they portray judges? How do they portray detectives? How do they look at defense attorneys? We'll talk a little bit about prosecutors, but I'll talk about why we aren't focusing on them as much. And then we'll also kind of use all this work to present our material through a collection of zines, which are just very super informal stories that use a variety of material. So it's not something that's going to be too difficult. I kind of wanted to start us with this idea of like, how do we think about this in pop culture? Well, somebody says to us like, well, did you see that episode of, whatever, Law and Society, Law and Order, um, you know, Dexter, whatever show with, the new show Watson, whatever show it is that you watch, right? Then they'll say, well, I think this is true in law because, and so one kind of funny example is the lie detector test because it's in so many of these kind of shows, and it's not admissible in court. And so, right, there's this idea that people think it's real. In a way, it's real, but in reality, in the legal reality, it's not something we take seriously. Um, so, you start to learn that things aren't true, and you'll do this. You'll like document this kind of knowledge that you're generating through these zines. And so here's just some collection of zines. You'll see they're super informal, very easy to put together, and we'll do a lot of this in class. So we've got a class website where you'll kind of see all this work. We've got the weekly work laid out, which I'll get into in a second. There's also a library of a variety of resources, including a lot of things we're using. The traditional syllabus, if you want to look at it that way, is there. And then there's the homepage where we'll just kind of have some general information. There's also a link to the library search tools, as well as just the common course information. Of course, we're meeting in a computer lab in the Mac building, the Marine Aquarium Center, I think is what it's called. No, the Marine Academic Center. but there is an aquarium on the first floor. So I remember it that way. It's the second floor, M220A. So when you see on the left-hand column here, what you'll see is just these are the weekly work. So when you go to the website and you click on any of these weekly ones, they'll unfold. So they're called accordions, and so they pull out, and then you'll see the specific things that need to be done, including hyperlinks that will take you to some of the assignments. We're going to be doing most of the work in class. There will be some online assignments that you're being asked to do, and here's the grading criteria to the right here. And so you'll see we're mostly going to be doing both the kind of in-class zines and organizing the collection. That's going to happen kind of throughout the course. Or different weeks we'll be doing different things. And then we'll be doing in-class reflection statements that are also worth a lot of points, as well as your presentations. And you'll see, right, you're not being heavily graded on the content as much as you're being graded on how much you participate. So attendance is key to this kind of work, and the kind of work that you're putting in the class and online. Here are some learning outcomes. Then you're going to be partially graded on your fourth learning outcome, one that you're going to put together. So you're going to be able to analyze crime stories and legal issues. You're going to be able to apply research methods that you're learning how to use and to analyze data. And then you're going to be able to work effectively in groups. And then you'll come up with a fourth one that's based on your interests. So just kind of to review, right, we're doing this kind of scientific approach that's going to be looking at statistics. You're going to be learning how to collect and analyze data that we use in criminal justice. You're going to be doing group work, which is very common in institutional behavior research in criminal justice. You're going to develop a hypothesis, and you're going to be able to apply the readings that we have in class to your own work. And then I really want to emphasize this word play. We're going to be playing a lot with graphs, story maps, statistics, sheets, all these different things. So I don't want you to be stressed out about it. We really want to look at it as play, and just we're learning how to use these things. To the right is like a formal process of how this kind of research works, with some nice pretty pictures that my friend Dr. Spinu made, and this is kind of just to help us. We'll use this from time to time to kind of just help us remember what it is we're trying to do. So I broke this up into kind of four main things. We're going to be using crime databases, including the FBI crime database, NYPD CompStat, and then we'll also be looking at story maps, right? So ways of telling stories about data. So we'll look at a variety of different examples, and then you'll make your own. And then Anthony, our student helper, has also made one, so he's going to help you do that as well. We're going to be looking a lot at how to turn statistics into graphs so that we can better understand what's going on over time and compare different variables. And then you're going to learn how to use very basic level spreadsheets. So here's an example that Anthony was working on last week, where he's looking at the gender and race of perpetrators and the victims in New York. He's interested in who's kind of murdering who and where, and how does that affect over time. He also looked at Chicago, and I think we also looked at Oklahoma City. So I just want to give you like two examples of how this works on like the day-to-day level. So like in week 2, you'll be bringing an example of a crime or a story. Then we'll kind of discuss how that applies to the course concepts. Then we'll take a short reading and we'll annotate it, which is just making comments about it in class to then see how does it further connect to our classwork. And then you'll watch a video, and then you'll start doing some really basic exploration of criminal justice data. So that's kind of a pretty typical flow of how we'll be doing things. If you want to look further, I gave you another example is in week 6. This is now like specifically looking at detectives in pulp fiction. So again, you'll bring in an example of a detective. We'll then look at the crime database and CompStat and kind of let's take the stats and the portrayals and compare them. And then we'll be looking at whether homicides are going up and down, how do we read these graphs, and then you'll make your own. And then Anthony will give you some information about how investigators collect and organize, record, and examine the data. And so then you'll kind of record your thoughts and your reflections through a Google Forms survey. And again, right, you'll see this is very similar to week 2, and this is kind of how we'll be approaching each week. So by the end, right, you should have been able to think about crime stories in the law. You should have thought about legal concepts and procedures. You should be able to research and collect and analyze data. You should be able to think about, how does pop culture inform and sometimes misinform criminal justice students. You'll have made some zines and some worked on some creative projects, and you'll have worked together in collaboration, and then you'll present on the work that you've done. I just wanted to show you that this was done last semester, and so this is our last day activity where we're organizing the zines and separating them to kind of see what themes did we have. And then I just wanted to highlight one of the zines was pretty cool. It was about car theft, and the text actually scrolls out the back of the car as if it was like driving forward. So you can be as creative as you want. You can also be as simple as you want. So don't be overwhelmed if art isn't your thing. But we definitely want to bring like different ideas and perspectives to this class. So I hope this overview has been helpful and just kind of gives you a basic idea of what we're going to be doing in the roadmap. And we'll obviously get into way more detail when we meet coming up.